Be careful. He's
and Scott Higgins, both of them coked up out of their minds.
Listen to you. He's down in the basement.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
I think we should call this the Acement.
The Acement, yes.
Yeah, what do you think there, huh?
I like that. The Acement Studios.
Excuse me, I'm drinking beer. Hold on a second.
We usually drink bourbon on our end.
Yeah,
when we
right.
do the podcast, so
That's all right.
feel free to enjoy yourself.
Yeah, exactly. You shoot an 8-ball if you want. We don't care, as long as it's good stories.
I have don't even tell me that's been muted the whole time.
I'm not sure.
That would be great.
Oh, that's hilarious.
There are certain situations, like I said, a heckler is one thing. We can handle a heckler.
Mm.
We're all equipped with it. We've all dealt with it. We can talk to them. We usually can dial it down. We can embarrass them. There's a lot of different things we can do that. Get the crowd on your side. You've said it before. Great way to do. Great. That's always the best way to do it.
Most people that like
everybody
you, the more
else
people got
on your
back.
side, and they all turn on him. Best way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But
sometimes they'll do the job for you.
When it's so unruly that you can't even get a word in, and all this is going on, and it's just chaos. Good luck. I mean, luckily that's very rare that ever happens.
Well,
But
bachelorette parties are the worst. They're definitely the worst. I mean, you can have a bachelor party at your show and not even know it. Right?
no offense,
But a
ladies.
bachelorette party shows up at your show and everybody knows.
Because everyone's got to know about Brittany.
Yep.
Fucking Brittany.
Fucking
Brittany.
They're wearing
Brittany's
fucking
night.
crowns and the penis hats, just like you said. It's like
Most of the time, bachelor parties don't go to comedy clubs. I've noticed they will have a bachelor party somewhere and hire a comedian to come to the bachelor
And then
party.
leave and go somewhere.
and then leave
Exactly.
to go wherever they're going to go.
Yeah.
And usually those are, turned into a roast.
Mm.
It's more of a roast than anything else.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That can be fun. The bachelorette party, they decided to go to just a comedy show. And because it's their special night, everyone else that came and also bought the same ticket that they did, fuck you. This is my show.
Right.
It's about me.
Yeah.
Because I'm a princess. And I love when a comedian is talking to the bride to be, and they go, "Oh, what's the groom's name?" Glenn. Oh, where's Glenn tonight? His friends took him out for his bachelor party. Oh, really? Where'd they go? Oh, they went to some indoor golf place. Oh, really? Yeah, called the Foxy Lady.
Yeah.
Is that where it is? Because he is eyebrow deep in snatching tits right now.
Yep, he's gotta
while
come home
you're
with glitter.
here going ha ha ha.
No, it started with golf, all right. And then
You just watch their faces just kind of start dropping as he's describing all of the debauchery that the bachelor party is doing that night.
Always starts with golf, right? Always starts with golf.
so someone's got to swing at something, right?
Yep.
And then it gets progressively worse.
Oh yeah.
Quality.
Bachelor parties when guys are in their 20s are the worst.
Oh yeah.
That's debaucherous. I've done a bachelor party when a guy was almost 40, and we just went up to F1 in Boston, indoor kart racing, and then went out to eat afterwards and went home. We didn't do anything debaucherous. We just had a great meal, some nice drinks, but we went racing, indoor kart racing first, and had a blast. So that was probably the best bachelor party I ever went to, because the other ones it's just like, oh, how am I going to explain this glitter when I get home?
Right. Yeah.
I hate glitter. Don't put it on me.
Why
Gets in your car.
Strippers know we have to go home to our significant others. Why do you have fucking glitter on? Why are you wearing perfume from the dollar store that leaves a vapor trail when I drive home? Okay, that shit stinks.
See,
I don't want glitter on my seats. You know how much of a pain in the ass that is?
Exactly.
That's why you got to normalize the glitter, though. If you have a packet of it,
oh yeah,
like a little tube of it in your car,
yeah.
Just every time you come home from work, you sprinkle some on. It's like, oh, you know what I mean? It's normal.
Yep. Sorry, baby, I work at iParty. It's just how it is over here.
So that way, when you come home from the bachelor party, there's no suspicion.
Your wife thinks you work at a strip club.
True. Very true. She thinks every comedy show I have is a bachelorette party. Everyone. with me as a stripper.
She's been to some of your shows.
Oh yeah. But I'm saying when she's not at the show.
Okay.
Yeah.
She treats it as such.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's fair. My girlfriend does that sometimes.
Yeah.
She's a good sport. She's on for the ride.
Oh, she's an excellent.
She likes
sport.
pointing
Yeah.
out. She likes pointing out
Excellent
characters
sport.
and everything.
Oh, I thought you were talking about my wife.
How long have you been married now?
12 years. Let's see, 2009.
You did that math way too long for only 12 years.
It'll be 13 years. It'll be 13.
13 years.
Yeah.
I have 31 years today.
When's the last time your wife saw you perform, Scott?
Last year.
Oh, all right. That's pretty recent. That's not too bad.
Last year.
2 days ago, she walked in on me in the bathroom.
Rubbing one out.
Happy anniversary. We need some more Kleenex.
Brian, where's your missus? Where's she at?
She's not home right now.
Yeah, actually, today is my 31st wedding anniversary, and she's in Florida.
Yay.
There you go.
And I'm with you guys.
There you go.
And she's with Ace.
Bachelor party.
This is how you stay married 31 years.
She's with Ace.
She's with 100 high school students. Trust me, she's not having fun.
Yeah, after his Instagram got hacked, Ace Aceto's more like Jack of Clubs Aceto. So
He's been demoted. He's 8 of Hearts Aceto. Though, where's my crypto, Ace? Where's my crypto?
It's just some guy from a show. You told me you do 45 minutes, you get off at 40. I get revenge on you. That's for summer of 1998, you piece of shit.
You only do 37 minutes. I take your Instagram.
Nobody goes short on Vladimir and does not get me. He gets away with it, bastard.
You make fun of Moscow. Now you're going down, my friend.
You say we're Russians on unicycles. I teach you something about unicycles, huh?
You say vodka sucks.
Now Nikolai Volkov's going to take over your Facebook.
Him and the Iron Sheik.
Exactly.
The Iron Sheik.
And he's got James.
Iron
and
Sheik,
he's got
best
James
wrestler in all of WWE. All-time greatest wrestler, Madison Square Garden. Iron Sheik.
That's a great name, the Iron Sheik.
Oh, back in the day, him and Bob Backlund.
legendary.
Wrestling
name.
was good back then.
Oh, it was so fun. It was so
Didn't
fun.
WrestleMania just happen last week?
Yeah.
I'm not a wrestling guy.
I
but got a lot of
haven't
friends who are into it.
watched
Yeah,
wrestling in
Sunday.
so many years.
Sunday or Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the other day.
Yeah.
Wrestling, I feel like a lot of wrestling fans are kind of underground about it. They don't tell anybody, and then you just find it's kind of like people that watch those drag shows, like on TV. They don't really tell anyone they're a fan. Then you bring it up, they're like, "Hey, let me tell you something," and all of a sudden it's like, "Wow, I didn't know you were into that."
I had to do one of those shows. That was the only time I was nervous.
Drag show?
My brother actually booked me in a show in Provincetown. You know, I do the little old lady, right?
Yeah.
So he says, you know, they had.
Oh, sure. Break down that wall for us.
Well,
Just
but
ruin everything.
I was nervous as hell to do this show because
So you were giving me the Werther's candies?
all day. So I was nervous to do this show because I really didn't want to offend anybody, you know. So, but it was standing room only in this
What,
bar.
my grandmother has 5 o'clock shadow and I'm not getting offended?
So they put me out. All of us are in the alley, but half of them are all drag queens and they're all changing out in the alley. Now I'm just sitting drinking my scotch, minding my business, but they're all coming over and they're looking at me, right? I'm like, you're checking to see if I'm real, aren't you? And they're like, oh my God, man. They're like, yeah, because I just look like a short, fat little old lady.
Yeah.
I mean, they're like 8 feet tall. They're like, we've never seen anything like you. I said, you never will again, Mary. I said, let me tell you right now. Right. So I start doing my thing. Now, mind you, when I'm the little old lady, I'm 95 years old, so I could say what I want. But I was the only one up there that night telling jokes. Everybody else, they were either singing or lip syncing or whatever. So I got up, I do my 4 or 5 minutes. I got off stage. Now, I did pretty good. Now I'm at the bar having a drink. 2 lesbians come up to me. They're like, oh my God, grandma. They said, you were great. I said, oh. I said, you people usually don't laugh. I said, the gays. I said, they laugh at everything. I said, but you people. I said, we didn't even have you people in my day. I said, in my day, I said, we had a couple of gym teachers and some ugly nurses. I said, that's all we had. I said, now you people are mainstream. And I look, I said, you two married? And they said, yeah. And one was gorgeous as hell. The other one looked like you. So they say, yeah, we're married.
She looked like Jafar from Aladdin.
So I looked at the ugly one. I said, you take out the garbage, don't you? And they were so excited. They're like, can we take a picture with you? I'm like, yeah, sure. Take a nice one for my obituary. I said, you know, you never know. But the only complaint the guy had that night is I wasn't dirty enough.
Really?
I said, well, listen, I said, where I'm from, I said, you can get dirtier. You can't get cleaner. I said, I just didn't want to offend anybody. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
And they said, no, anything goes up here. I said, but I said, this is my first time up here. So they closed the bar early. And then we went to another bar and I'm all dressed. I said, I got to go home and change. And my brother-in-law said, you're fine. I mean, it's Provincetown. They didn't care. So now I'm sitting at the table, minding my business, drinking. People are coming over, want to take pictures. The piano player stops playing piano, comes over. He says, Nana, he says, I got to apologize. He said, listen, I don't know any songs before 1950. I said, that's fine, Liberace. I said, I wasn't going to tip you anyway. But I ended up having a good time. But I was nervous to do the show.
Yeah,
and I don't get nervous just because I didn't want to offend anybody.
Yeah, and for the listeners, you'll be surprised. So people will get mad because you said something that offended somebody, but sometimes people will complain that you weren't dirty enough.
Yeah.
So whenever people are like, oh, why don't you just always assume the best, we try to run the best balance we possibly can, because you'll be surprised how much people complain about very subtle nonsense.
Well, you know, at the beginning of my act, the first 5 minutes, I kind of test the waters a little bit. The first 3 jokes I do are kind of middle of the road, but the final one pushes it. And if they laugh at, because I kind of set the pace of who I am and kind of where I'm going, and then I hit them with something a little dirtier. And if I feel them pull back or they don't laugh at that one, okay, they're not that crowd tonight. And if they do laugh at it, I'm like, okay, I can just kind of keep going along and be okay. But sometimes you can read that wrong too, because they weren't ready yet. Yeah. You got to go a little further into your act before you can start to do that, you know, type of thing. There's a certain psychology to working with the crowd, because, you know, we've said it, no matter how long you've been doing this, you know, 20 years, 10 years, whatever it is, there's never 2 crowds that are the same. You have jokes that you have done forever, every single one of us. And there are nights that joke surprises you, that it either gets a laugh in a spot it never did, gets a bigger laugh than ever has before, or just the opposite. It's like, why didn't that joke work? That joke always works. And it just kind of throws you off, you know, because this crowd that just didn't hit with them for some reason. And it's so weird. It's just a strange psychology. We had Derrick Fonseca on the podcast, and he got deep into crowd psychologies. And he's a guy that really, you could tell, has studied it throughout his career and really understands, you know, a crowd psychology, and really tests it when he's up there.
Yeah,
figures them out.
Always prided himself on.
He can win over any crowd. It's an
outstanding trait. It really is.
Yeah,
to be
and that's a skill set. That's a skill set to be able to do that, and that, you know, it's something that you can learn after a while. But let me ask you this: you know, you talk about Grandma Martha.
Yeah,
has she ever really offended anybody?
Yeah,
when you're on stage.
Yeah,
and that shocks me.
Well, old people. You know the trouble, 80s and 90s, I have no trouble with 80 and 90-year-olds, but there's 67-year-olds that don't realize that they're old.
Oh, yeah.
Like I did a little corporate thing for an insurance company. They must have had like a night. They were at a brewery, actually, but they had some in-services, whatever they were doing. And they wanted the little old lady to come and tell some jokes after. Well, basically, I just show up unannounced. So, like, what's this old bag doing in this brewery? You know, like the woman that booked me knew who I was, and then she introduced me to the CEO. He was there, and actually another guy came down from New York, but mostly all different, I think, department heads. So there's one table, and there's like 6, and there's 3 couples, and one guy is just looking at me with, looks like Ed Sullivan. He's got a face on him, and I can't look away from people like that.
Yeah.
Until I get them to laugh. So now, you know me, when I do my act, like I said, I'm a 95-year-old woman, so I start doing my thing. And I start telling my jokes, and I said something. He's like, well, you better watch it. We're middle-aged. I said, excuse me? He says, we're middle-aged. I said, okay. And he had to be like 70 years old. I said, how many 140-year-old people do you see walking around Rhode Island right now? I said, you should be dead right now. I said, there's a couple of vultures just circling this brewery. I said, you're on the other side, sonny boy. Right? So now he's, you know, and the wife's laughing. Right? So now
that's what pissed him off.
The wife's laughing like crazy. So, but he's so serious. I said, you always this serious? And she's like, yeah. I said, how many years you been married? They're like 47. I'm like, I said, missionary for 47 years, huh?
Hey.
Oh.
She turns as red as my jacket, but she's still laughing. I'm like, mm-hmm. So then I started joking. He started laughing, and it was fine. But yeah, I've only really offended, I don't know, like old people, basically. But I mean, I've done senior centers with a ton of old people, like all old people, and never had a problem.
Because real old people they like talking about being old and they like laughing about it.
I mean, they have a good sense of humor.
Yeah.
But
my grandmother's so morbid about it. It's almost like scares me. She'll just be like, she doesn't live in America. She's like moved back to Portugal when she retired, but she's like, oh, please make sure you see me one more time before I die. I'm like, you need to stop.
So she's been wearing a black dress since she's 40.
Yeah, she's just like
with the veil. With the veil.
She's always got me worried. I'm like, are you gonna die? Is there something you need to worry about? And I asked my cousin who lives over there. I'm like, how's my grandmother doing? She's like, oh, she's full of shit. She was painting the other day and she's still drinking. I'm like, oh my God.
There is a certain age where they start going, oh, well, don't worry about it. I'm going to die soon. Anyway, it's like, what the fuck?
There's something about that generation. They just joke around about that like it's nothing.
Yeah,
I think it's hilarious. I mean,
but there's just serious people out there. So if you were serious when you were 20, you're going to be 10 times serious when you're 80.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. But you know, Scott, the first time I ever came on this podcast, I always said, like, I have an analogy that I like to use, and it's true. I was like, you never get pissed off at your favorite actor because they killed somebody in a movie and you say they're promoting murder. So why the hell would you look at a comedian on stage and take what they're saying serious?
Yeah.
It's a performing art. This is not a TED Talk. This is not a political rally. This is not a college seminar of any sorts. You need to not take this seriously.
Kevin Bacon played a pedophile in a movie, and nobody like tried to get him kicked out of movies for the rest of his life because he played a pedophile.
No, he's playing a pot.
But if you do a pedophile joke, they're going to shut your career down for life.
Yeah, those poor pedophiles. Oh no.
But that's why I used to like Rickles. Now I saw Rickles about 15 times.
Yeah.
Okay. The first time I saw him, he was with Frank Sinatra. That's how long ago it was. I was like 13 years old. Like, Dang, Great was wild. Like, what the shit is this? It's the middle of August. They're in full tuxedos.
How old was Sinatra?
Right. Had to be in the 70s.
Okay.
Yeah, he was in the 70s then. And Rickles was right behind him.
Mm-hmm.
But then the last time I saw Rickles he was 90. He literally passed away maybe 6 months after I saw him.
Ouch.
And he'd be doing his thing, and he'd be like, people get offended, but he's like, lady, these are jokes. You know, it's what it is.
Yeah.
You know? And I mean, he offended everybody.
The stories about him, they said he was one of the few people that could roast Sinatra in front of everybody and get away with it. The famous story at the restaurant about him. Did you ever hear that one?
Oh, when he's with the girl?
Yes.
Yeah, no, this was even better.
Well, can I tell that one first?
If this is your podcast, go right ahead.
No,
Ace isn't here. He's counting his Bitcoins. I'm 3 scotches down, so fuck it. Go ahead, Scott Higgins.
He told this story a few times. Rickles did. He had this girl he was trying to impress after a show, and they go in a restaurant, and Sinatra's at the restaurant. And he goes over to Sinatra's table, and he goes, hey, Frank, can you do me a favor? I'm trying to get with this girl over here, and she's a big fan of yours. Could you possibly stop by the table and say hello so I can introduce you and help me impress her? Frank goes, oh, yeah, Don, of course I will. So Rickles sits down with the girl, and a little while later, Frank comes over and he goes, hey, Don, how you doing, man? I wanted to come over and say hello. And he goes, Frank, can't you see I'm with somebody? Really? You going to interrupt me in the middle of dinner? Come on. And he turns back around on Sinatra and makes Sinatra walk away from it. They said only Rickles could get away with that.
No,
with him.
The best story I heard was right when Rickles passed away. Then it started, all the talk shows like Jimmy Kimmel and Rickles were very close. So the news had just hit. Like, he's literally crying as he's telling this story because Rickles had only died because they filmed early. So let's say Rickles died at 2 and they're filming Kimmel's show at 4. I mean, he just got
I
the
remember
news.
that.
So he's literally crying, telling stories. And he said one of the last times, like Sinatra was getting old and a little senile, he said they're at this fancy restaurant. He said white tablecloths, white walls, everything fancy. He said at that time, Frank's drinking his Jack Daniels. He said, and anything would just set him off. He said, for some reason, a waiter comes by, puts a bottle of ketchup in front of Frank. Don't know why. Frank just picks it up, hums it at the wall, ketchup everywhere because it's a white restaurant. So like everywhere, it just looked like The Shining, right? Okay. Now, and Jimmy Kimmel's like, the the room is silent. He said, all of a sudden you hear Rickles say, "Hey Frank, can you pass the ketchup?"
But
just that
Rickles was a
old
guy
school
that
gag
could get away with
humor,
it.
man.
Scorsese said when they were shooting Casino, when De Niro would walk on set, all the extras, everybody would get like silent and just, oh my God, it's De Niro. And then all of a sudden Rickles would go, "Oh my, everybody bow, the fucking actor is here. Oh, genuflect, Mr. Method Prick is here. We got to get ready to," and he would bust his balls in front of everybody. And he goes, and De Niro would just bust out laughing because he loved that old school busting balls type of stuff. And Rickles was just fearless, absolutely fearless. He didn't care. Yeah, it's so fast, just so lightning fast, one after another. Look at the old Carson appearances. I love watching those when he would go on. Didn't matter who was on the couch. Anything, they could not. When he was 90 years old, he went on Letterman when Denzel Washington was on.
Denzel stayed.
Denzel asked if he could stay and hang out with him, and was crying laughing. Everybody loved Rickles.
But see, that's back when show business was show business, like the Tonight Show. So like the last couple of times you go see Rickles, he's in a wheelchair. All right. So the lights are dim, the curtains. So they're getting him out of the wheelchair, putting him in an easy chair. So you're watching the TVs, the old clips of the Tonight Show. So they're showing one clip of the Tonight Show. Frank Sinatra is actually hosting it. Now on the couch, and everybody just stayed where they were. So he's interviewing Rickles. Next to Rickles is Carol O'Connor.
Oh, geez.
Next to Carol O'Connor is Angie Dickinson. And next to Angie Dickinson is George Burns. All right. Now, George Burns was even younger at the time than Rickles was when I saw him on stage. Right. But at the time, he's 80 something.
Yeah.
And Rickles is just doing his thing. Right. And he's like, "George," he's like, "I'll give you 500. He said, "if you go with my mother." He says, "You don't have to do anything." He said, "She gets excited, just change the channel." Right. All of a sudden, George Burns, without missing a beat, says, "I'll do it for 3."
Yeah, Burns was lightning.
But I'm saying that's when stuff was funny. Like now with Kimmel, like that's when funny shit happens. So let's say the four of us are on the couch. That's when funny shit's gonna happen.
Right.
When it's not scripted.
Yeah. Yeah, it comes from the moment.
They weren't worried about offending. They weren't worried about trigger words. They weren't worried about any of that. Now, network TV, like Fallon and Kimmel, they'll never have anybody on that might push that envelope anymore. Conan still had people that would. Bill Burr. Well, Conan's gone now, so you don't have anybody as far as talk shows that are going to have people that push that envelope, anymore. Because Fallon doesn't really do stand up at all. Kimmel occasionally will have stand ups, but he's going to be careful. Who he brings on. It's network television, and networks are so afraid. They're so afraid, and I get it, because someone's going to sue you, somebody's going to call the FCC, someone's going to try to bring you down. It's crazy. But to me, what I loved was, you had the Oscars that, with everything that happened with Will Smith, but then a week later you have the Grammys, and I didn't watch the Grammys either, but Louis C.K. wins a Grammy for spoken word album of the year for his Louis C.K. Sincerely comedy special, where he came out and talked about exactly what he did and why. Wow. Yeah, he if you didn't watch the special, I did. He was very open about it, and he didn't make excuses. He didn't sugarcoat it. He talked about exactly what he did, and he goes, everybody has their little, sexual thing. He goes, the difference is you all know what mine is. It was a great special. And I mean, he still wasn't afraid to offend people in it, because he has a way of normalizing these horrific things.
Well, Chappelle got some serious heat on his recent one too.
With the transgender stuff.
Where he was talking about how he doesn't have anything against that community. It's just how people were taking it. But I mean, after that, and he talked about a friend, and there's some people that still were hating him after it. And I'm like, I don't know, man. He explained his side on it. Just let it happen,
Can we joke about that stuff?
Can we joke around that stuff? I think it depends on, everything has its taboos, right? I mean, once upon a time, a man and a woman sleeping in a bed together on a TV or a movie was taboo, You know, can we?
How did Lucy
what was it?
get pregnant?
I Love Lucy, right?
How
It's
did Lucy
separate
get
beds.
pregnant?
So
She's pregnant on the show, yet they didn't sleep in the same bed.
in the same bed. That
Fred.
was once upon a
Flintstones.
time.
No, that
was a
means
problem.
Ricky was hung. That's what that means.
Oof. So I mean, it's just I think at some point, you know, can you not? It's all over the place.
Times are different now. It's sad.
People, it's well. I think it also changes. I think what people are easily offended about over the years can change too. I mean, because you know, I mean, when you think about it, in the '60s, people got outraged over what color your skin was and what bubbler you were using. You know what I'm saying? It's like that's when you look at that now, you're like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. So it's just
I don't know. That still bothers me.
That's Jesus.
No, it bothers me that people say bubbler.
Oh, bubbler.
I
yeah.
hate that.
I should say
you
water
guys have
fountain.
water fountains?
Yeah, we have water fountains.
Ooh, sounds so exotic.
Water fountain.
Mm.
I actually like
No,
water fountain
OJ.
more than bubbler.
Since this was kind of the
There's no freaking bubbles coming.
since this was kind of the topic tonight, we started with the slap heard around the world with Will Smith and talked about unruly crowds. A lot of times that unruly crowd or the confrontational person is because they're offended. Is there truly any subject that shouldn't be talked about by a comedian? In your opinion? Because there are people that say that nothing is off limits.
I think it's not. I think it's all about. It's a combination of how such subject is expressed, how it's said, and I think timing does obviously matter. You know, timing does matter. I went to an open mic during the night of the Boston marathon bombing, and there was some hack talking about it on stage. There were people that haven't even heard from family members who were at the freaking race. So it's all about it's not just about what you say, it's about how you say it and when you say it. And there's a combination of those two things. And the art form is figuring out exactly how you do that. Sometimes it's just not necessary and it's not even worth doing. It's completely irrelevant to even try. Sometimes there could be something out of it that makes it worthwhile to go do it. And I mean, while we're talking about this, and I only say this because this is relevant. I have a friend, a coworker as well. He is in Ukraine. He works in Ukraine. He still works he's close to the border, but he cannot leave because he's old enough to fight over there. He makes jokes.
He's not talking about the country. He's talking about the guy operates a crane. So it's Ukraine.
He's in Ukraine. No. So he is.
And right now I have Instagram from Asasido.
lives in Kiev, is over there. And he sends me memes. He does not even have to work or anything. He sends me jokes. He sends me memes about what's this guy just like,
well, their president is a comedian after all.
Exactly.
their president is a
Ukraine.
comedian, but the fact that you can worry about if I might have to just go drop everything and go fight this war, and he's already has to have and he makes jokes. He makes jokes to me about it.
Let's take
That's incredible. I admire that humor, something so serious, he could take. Like humor helps take the stress, the anxiety out of that subject matter for him. It makes it easier.
Let's take this in a dark path then.
Sure.
Let me throw out a couple of subjects and tell me if you've ever heard a joke that actually works from one of these subjects. The Holocaust.
Yeah.
Have you heard somebody joke about it and the joke actually worked?
Seinfeld, Sandler, many more.
What was the joke? If you because and I'm being honest.
Oh, gee, just like from metaphors. I honor obviously. Like,
I don't remember Sandler talking about it. The only thing I ever really remember from Seinfeld was the episode of his show where he was making out during Schindler's List, which really isn't a joke about the Holocaust as much as it was just him making out during Schindler's List.
I forgot what movie it was, but someone makes a comment about it, and it's a joke about what was happening. But I forgot what it was, so that's pretty terrible over here on the podcast. But
no, and it's just, to me, I'm just trying to see because to me, if you can find the funny in something, go for it.
Right,
go for it.
Yeah,
there are certain subjects that I would never make fun of because I just never found the funny in them.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of things I stay the hell away from.
If Roman or Brian came up with a joke using the N-word that they could get away with and it was funny, go for it. I don't hold nothing against you. I can't think of one that I could get away with that would be funny, so I'm not going to use it. You do a joke using the C word that most comedians, especially male comedians, would never do. It's funny, and you're not using it in an angry way where anybody should get upset about it.
Yeah. So for those, for clarification, I do a joke on the right shows when the crowd's feeling it. They want to go that way. I talk about travel because I like to do that thing. I talk about Australia and how they use different words in different contexts. So I talk about that word, and people would use that word to refer to starting their lawnmower, like start it. And then they would use that word. It's completely, but in America, that's an insanely offensive word.
Right.
And it's just used in that context. And that's what I'm making fun of. And some people would take that in a certain direction, but in Australia, that's hysterical to them. It's funny.
And when you tell the joke on stage, it's funny.
Absolutely.
And it's a great point that it's all about context. So the only thing I ever heard that made me laugh as far as, and it wasn't even about the Holocaust, is again, Louis C.K. talking one time about when they were casting for Schindler's List. Has everyone seen the movie Schindler's List?
Yes.
Have you guys seen it? Brutal movie, excellent movie, but brutal movie. But there was that one scene when they're marching the Jews through the ghetto in Poland. And you have that one little girl that is screaming at them, "Goodbye, Jews, goodbye." And she's like got the mean face and she's screaming at them. And Louis C.K. is telling, he goes, imagine that casting session of them bringing all these little girls in, these little 8-year-old girls to scream, "Goodbye, Jews, goodbye." And, their mothers were in the hall going, "You're not angry enough. You really hate the Jews. You have to yell at them. You have to despise them," trying to inspire them. And, and to me, that was the idea of a stage mom preparing a kid to do this horrendous scene was funny. Other than that, that's one subject that I don't know how you'd find the funny in it. I'm not going to sit here and list everything for the rest of the night. That's horrific.
You mentioned movies though, right? So there's an older film, right? And it's relevant, especially anybody who
Trainspotting.
No, Dr. Strangelove.
Dr. Strangelove.
All right, so a black comedy. Yeah, but a brilliant dark comedy about literally everyone's fear of nuclear war during the Cold War.
Yeah.
That's not, there's nothing funny about that. And that was a genuine fear. Especially anyone that lived through that time, especially that was in military age at that time period. But the point of that movie is that it was making fun of the absurdity of the whole thing, But
I think that the absurdity, what made that movie work was the characters were so absurd.
Yes, the characters were absurd and they expressed the absurdity of the entire thing.
Wasn't that a Stanley Kubrick movie?
Oh man, was it?
I think it was. He did Full Metal Jacket. He did.
I'm surprised you don't know that one, Brian.
Well, Jessica Tandy wasn't in it, so I didn't watch it.
hey.
But Sophie Tucker was.
Beep, beep, beep.
And she had legs.
Brian Vincent is a legs man, and I appreciate that.
I don't. It's funny because I recently watched my first time on stage ever. In February, when my 20 years was up, I took out the video cassette.
Hey, baby.
For all you youngsters, that's how we watched video back in the day. And I watched in all fairness, it was my second time on stage. It was at the Comedy Connection, Faneuil Hall. Cal Verducci taped it for me. And, I wanted to compare then and now. And it's amazing the subject matter that 20 years difference that you were talking about.
Right.
The difference between then and now, and the type of stuff that I tend to gravitate towards writing about, and my ideas that I come up with
right
now. Have you looked back at any of your original stuff or when you first started and look at it?
Absolutely.
And reflected back, and is there anything that you did back then that you still kind of use, like the genesis of it was then, and obviously it's more polished and it's better now, but you still have some of it, and is there anything that still lives?
Yeah, my hat spit, right? The hat spit.
That's such a good bit.
So it's a good bit, but the hat spit, fact about it was that bit started as obviously based on a true story of something that someone wore. I'm not going to describe it on here because someone will probably hear it at this point. Maybe, you never know. But the point, I decided to evolve that bit to make fun of the whole premises of the whole thing in general of stereotypes.
Yep.
And that's exactly what the joke is actually supposed. It's making fun of those stereotypes in the first place. It's how they're so ridiculously stupid. So I took what was just kind of, I'm not going to say hacky, but I will say was a little tropey, a little more of just a common trope. And I took that to kind of just make a stance on something and then just have something fun with it. So I thought that was cool that I took an original concept and then like evolved the thing over time.
I think that's the most rewarding moment as a comedian is I look back at that first 5 minutes I did, and I had probably 4 minutes of real hacky, generic shit that a lot of people would talk about.
That I use now.
That I gave to Brian. And I had 1 minute, this one joke that was a true original thought, true story that evolved over time into like a 4-minute story, and I could still take it out when I need it once in a while. Now it's evolved, and I can see the thought process I had at the time and everything like that. And I was like, wow, I really had something back then, but I didn't know it then when I look back now. And Cal Verducci still makes fun of me to this day. We had him on the podcast last year, and I was so glad we did. If you don't know Cal, he was a Boston-based comedian, lives in Las Vegas now. And if it wasn't for Cal, I wouldn't be doing stand-up.
Wow.
Him and I were working together during the days, and Cal was doing stand-up, and he would run jokes by me, and I would throw ideas at him, and he's like, dude, you should try it. And I'm like, no way. I'm too old. It's past the point. He goes, you're never too old. You should totally do it. And then he said one night, he said, hey, I'm going to be at the Connection in Faneuil Hall Wednesday night. Want to come see me? I'm going to be with Don Gavin. And I was like, yeah, I'll come see you. So I come watch the show. And after the show, he introduces me to the manager. And he says to the manager, it's my buddy Scott. He's from out of town, just moved in the area. He was doing comedy down south. He wants to do some spots up here. Can he call you sometime for a spot? And Joey's like, yeah, absolutely. And Joey walks away. I'm like, dude, what the fuck was that? And he goes, now you got an in. Give him a call Monday.
There you go.
So I didn't have a choice. So I felt almost and everything. So he pushed me, and then he started taking me around places, give me a phone number. So I still thank Cal to this day for getting me into this fucking mess that we do. But I love every second.
Now you can't leave, man. Now you can't leave.
Oh, it just
once you're in,
the
you
hook
can't
is
leave,
so
man.
deep now,
yeah,
and
man.
everything. But we had so much fun back then, and him helping me kind of come up with the ideas in the beginning and put stuff together. And I still to this day love the creation of a new joke.
Oh yeah.
And a new idea and a new concept. And I'm not worried about offending anybody. If I find it funny, I'm gonna do it. And
well, no one goes into this wanting to piss people off unless you're just an asshole.
It's not even that.
You
you're right. No one intends to, but nowadays you don't know what's going to or not going to.
Yeah.
So, but I know comedians that sit there and they think, oh, if I word it a certain way, am I going to offend people? Do I have to worry about that?
No, you can't.
I'm just going to word it how I think is funny. And hopefully they find it funny too. Last Friday night I did a fundraiser, and then I stopped by Kirsten Logan. By the way, if you guys haven't done it, her Galactic theater room.
Awesome.
I stopped by and I asked her. I said, "Hey, if you have a spot, great. If you don't, I'll just hang out." And she let me do a spot there. Packed house. It was all a younger crowd too, and first thing I'm thinking is like, "Oh, here we go." They're the ones that are politically correct. They're going to get offended easier, everything like that. They were great. I did like between 6 and 7 minutes, and I decided when I got up there, I'm going to only do new stuff. I'm not going to do any proven stuff. I'm only going to do the new stuff I've been working on, because I'm not the closer. I don't have to worry about it. I'm just going to mess around and do stuff. And it was so much fun. I felt like the old days of doing an open mic again.
I got to tell you something, Scott. Like,
that was so fun.
The loudest people of my generation are the offended ones, but most of us actually aren't. It's just the loudest people of my generation are the easily offended ones. But most of us,
But
we
that's
really don't
most
give a shit.
generations, Derek. Is
Yeah, I feel
most
that way.
generations the offended are going to be the loudest.
But I feel like
people.
I feel like I don't know I now of course the Zoomers too, but like everyone is like I feel like younger people get that stigma, of being that way, and I think because the loudest people of that generation tend to lean that way.
And we have multiple generations represented here.
Yeah, which is great
tonight because you have like baby boomers, Generation X, and then you have what do you got Neanderthals,
He is a boomer.
No, those are just my audience.
Oh, okay.
Average age of my fans is dead.
No, what does Mike Murray say, dude? The average age of this crowd is corpse.
Jimmy
How cool is
Buffett.
that?
How cool is that?
I love you, Mike. If you're listening to this, I love you so much.
He's not listening.
Yeah, I know he's not.
This comes out, he goes click click.
He's making t-shirts, baby. He doesn't have time for that shit.
That's like when he comes out to do the podcast, he puts the headphones on. I go, what are you doing? Wait, seriously? That's like a deaf guy wearing earmuffs.
Mike Murray does it by feel. He listens to the bass of your words.
He still reads lips. Still does it. I mean, and he can't read our lips because we have beards.
That's
He
true.
told me that one time.
Yeah?
Seriously?
Yeah. He goes, I struggle with
He
reading
still
lips.
orders a
If you
pizza
have
and gets
beard, I can't do it."
jalapenos.
Yeah.
I said to him
Jalapenos.
before when the pandemic started, I said, you know what the best part about wearing masks is? I can talk shit to your face and you don't even know it.
You know what else is what I mean? Speaking of that stuff, right? Mike Murray always talks about like his journey as a deaf comic, and people tell him, "Screw you for making fun of deaf people." And he's like, "I am." So what are you gonna do? I always try. Like I go into everything, because we were all talking about when people that have called and complained after shows. When 99% of people enjoyed the show, but there's always that 1% of Karen that calls and complains. I go into everyone's approach is different. My approach, I always go in and I try and be as least abrasive as possible. I want to and I actually, a lot of people can put a lot of pressure on doing length. I put pressure on myself the first.
That's what she said.
The first minute I
knew somebody was going to say
a ridiculous amount of pressure on myself. If I don't win over the crowd now, this is bad. I need to win them over within 60 seconds or I'm screwed, even if I have a good set. But I go into it where I want everyone to feel good. I want everyone to leave and be glad they came out. I don't want anyone to be upset or pissed off or whatever. So it's just, people just need to take it for what it is. That's all it is.
Start strong and strong.
Start strong and strong. Yeah. And I go on stage with a lot of I'm just really happy to be there. And I'm happy the crowd's there. So it's like if
you got good energy.
Yeah. And if someone feels that way, it's like, I'm sorry you feel that way. But you gotta realize like we're just doing this. Like you gotta just take it with a grain of salt. That's all that this is. You gotta just let it happen.
But not everybody can and
that's the joke sometimes. Sometimes that's where the humor comes from is that, people say, oh, well, that I don't like that because that's whatever. It's like, that's exactly the point. No sane person would actually say or think that. That's the point. We come through with a base of we know no one would really do that.
Yeah.
That's absurdity. That's the fun of it.
We try to tell people all the time that all comedy is based in reality. Now, 3% of it may be a reality. 97% of it's exaggerated. So like he just said, while maybe someone would say it, 99% of people wouldn't. I'm saying something that maybe someone would think this way. No one would ever say it in a million years. That's why I'm saying it out loud, because it's funny to say it out loud.
But that's why we do what we do.
Exactly.
Yeah,
because we're saying shit that other people want to say, but they can't.
Now the elephant in the room is what Derek was just talking about is we just did a show together a few weeks ago, and it was a fundraiser, and they booked an adult show.
And
they said, I asked them when they booked it. I asked them when I got together with them to organize a show, and I asked them when I set up for the show that night, and they said no content restrictions.
Yep. And Scott, I will say that too. When you're a professional, as we are, when someone says you do a clean show, we do a clean show.
Yeah, exactly.
But when someone says, hey, we want a dirty show, the crowd wants, we're going to do whatever we want.
And I didn't say do a dirty show, but I said to these guys, listen, they said no content restrictions. They said it's an adult show. Feel them out. You guys, I book people that are professionals that I trust. I said, feel them out. do what you do. So we had Dave Sheehan on the show.
Yep.
Dave, great set.
Yep.
He was phenomenally
Not
funny.
an edgy guy at all.
No, but clever, smart, funny. Had a great set. Derrick goes up there. Derrick brings the energy level up like he does so well. We've all worked with him, and he had them going. And then Mike McCarthy closed out the show, brought it, to this level, the Barbarian, another level. And literally they sold 160 something tickets. If they sold 164, 162 people died laughing. 2 people didn't. And they called to complain afterwards.
Oh, Jesus.
Mr. and Mrs. Karen.
And they said, we don't understand why you guys can't perform like you're in church. I said, 1, because my first name doesn't start with father. I said, I actually called the guy, because when someone says that, I don't just blow it off. I call them. And I said, listen, this is what the person that booked us, this is what they said. I'm sorry you didn't have fun, but, most of the crowd seemed to be okay with it. And the guy, he actually, at the end of it, he goes, well, I hope you can figure this out soon and remember that God loves you.
Well, that's funny that people do that, because I've actually been booked on church gigs. I have. And they've been very honest and straightforward. Can you not do anything overly crazy and sexual and just be clean? Can you do a clean set? Absolutely, I can do a clean set. And if people had a great time, you ask for it, put it through.
But I always go deeper. When people say clean.
Yeah, what's your definition?
What is your definition of clean? Because some people clean is just not swearing.
Yeah, no F-bombs.
Right. Yeah. Some people clean is no adult subject matter. There's different levels of clean.
It is true, because
there's church clean, and then there is PG clean. So there's different levels of clean.
There's church clean, and then there's church bingo clean. You know what
exactly.
I mean?
I like that.
Right?
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well, can you do church clean?
No.
I don't think you can.
No, I'd have to do crowd work.
I've done kid clean. I had to do kids once, like on a show. Yeah. So they told me, they did not even tell me this was like a private thing.
Instead of penis hats, what did you say they were? Bugs Bunny hats?
Dude, I did a mean 10 minutes on PlayStation and Pokemon and crushed. So those kids loved. I talked about dealing Pokemon cards in the schoolyard. They were loving it. But it's like no one even told me about it. Just to correct you, the song is. We could play the song
Maria
at some point.
Folks, I might have to record that just so we can have that as our new theme song.
If you can actually go to YouTube, you can put in How It's Made theme song, and you can correct me yourself. And I guarantee you, I got that down beat by beat.
You actually do. I've looked that up. That is pitch perfect. Pitch perfect.
But it's definitely something. But there is different levels of clean. I mean, I try to be able to work with all of it, because the more versatile you are, the better. And I like to be, I'm always respectful of everyone's needs or whatever. And I come at everything with like this, like I said, this gratefulness. So it's like, I'm not to come at someone like that afterwards, like, because they didn't like what you said, you're a piece of shit or something. It's like, man, that's not what it is. You're just reading out, yeah, God loves you too, dude, and you're not perfect. So let's just, to go with it and enjoy the whole atmosphere. But I actually had a compliment after one 2 weeks ago, because I didn't swear on it at all, and that was all a guy wanted. A guy came up to me after, it was with Pettit at Hills,
Country Club?
Crystal Lake.
Yep.
And a guy came up to me after, he's like, hey, I'm really glad you went up there and did that without swearing. I think that's really cool. I loved your stuff. I just thought that was really nice. I thought that was great that he did that. That was just my objective for the night.
How about just saying, hey, dude, you were really funny?
I like that.
Just leave it at that. That's enough.
But who cares if, even if, I hear things I don't like every day.
I thought your grammar was really proper.
Oh, I like that. If someone told me
I like how you punctuated. That was really
well
done.
Your timing was
You
great.
really used your apostrophes.
I mean,
it's
seriously.
But it's, I don't know. It's how things can be with people sometimes. I don't really know what it is.
Let me ask you this. How many years total for comedy for you?
10 years. Well, it's about to be 11.
11 years.
About to be 10.
10.
15.
15. Okay. So let's start with, we'll go newest to oldest. In your 10, almost 11 years,
yep,
what is the biggest change you've seen in performing for crowds? What have you seen as a change? What have maybe you've had to change in the way you write or do things in 10 years? Because it's constantly changing. The crowds, what you could talk about. We talked about tonight about pushing the envelope, stuff like that. What have you personally seen as a change in your 10 years?
What I've personally seen is there's two things I personally seen. One, if you touch anything that is remotely can be taken as political, you will be thrown into a category and judged by that. And the second thing I feel is you don't want to risk, I feel, anything that would be deemed as a racial thing or a racial stereotype or something like that, because things have got, even if that's not even what you're talking about, right. People can take that and throw it in that direction. Ironically, often people with the same skin color as you. So
yeah.
So it's like I was talking about someone's, I forgot, man, where I was not too long ago, but a friend of mine, she's like, no one in my ethnicity actually feels that way. That's just white ladies. I feel that way. I thought that was funny. I was like, all right, that's funny shit.
That's actually funny. Brian, what about you?
Well, you can't really go by my act because, I mean, the way I learned from actually a 90-year-old comic. He passed away, and that's the way I do things. Joke.
No, but still, what the what you're talking about or the material, maybe.
Well, obviously, you.
And if you haven't seen a change, that's fine. No. I'm just curious.
No, you stay clear of politics. Exactly what Derrick said. You stay clear of politics.
Yeah.
Exactly. But like what I do, I don't even leave the room open for discussion. Once my glass is empty, I'm out. Boom, 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 boom. Joke. Like I seen comics, they get up and, well, what do you want to talk about? And you stop breaking out the discussions. Then you stop breaking out the discussions, and then you don't have the room corralled.
Yeah.
Where me, I don't give him time to even think. I'm already on my third joke. You're still laughing at the first joke, and I
do that more now. Actually, I like that approach because I do that more now too. As soon as they stop laughing, boom, next thing. I don't want to give them time. No, I want to go get off.
You can't give them time only because it could go a different way.
Yeah.
So like the way I do it, and it's so old, it's new again because nobody's really doing it. But I mean, my pants are up to my neck. I mean, I'm choking my Adam's apple right now. But
well, I thought your belt buckle was a nose ring.
Oh,
hey, I tell you, no respect this guy over here. Huh?
Shout out to Rodney.
But you do have to watch especially now. I mean, everything's crazy now. You put the TV on and you just have to watch everything. Yeah. But I don't know. But like my stuff, either you're gonna laugh or you don't. These are jokes. Like I just do jokes.
I think
I do a little crowd. It depends who I'm working with. If I work with Parada, I don't do any crowd work.
Right.
But if I'm not working with Parada, I do crowd work and then
you do great crowd work. I've seen you do crowd work.
Yeah, you're a good crowd work.
Right. And I do a little bit and get back into my stuff. And a lot of times when I do crowd work, I can't remember my shit. If I have to switch gears, that's when I do crowd work. So let's say I'm doing like married people jokes and they're not going over well. I got to switch a little bit. So I start saying, all right, well, where you from? And it's buying me a little more time. And then I start doing my stuff. But there are a few subjects like politics. Definitely, I stay away from.
Yeah,
you don't mention politics, even COVID. So people are like, oh, you must have some great COVID jokes. I'm like, what are you nuts?
I don't do it.
I'm like, what are you nuts? I said, you can't even mention that. You're gonna split the room. It's just like
I can't because COVID became political in America.
Exactly. So I stay clear of that.
Yeah.
Stuff.
I mean, sometimes now if you just say the word vaccine, like, yeah, you fucking got it. It's like I don't even want
I do have one joke. Rockin' Joe called me up. He said, listen, Martha needs to use this joke. I said, okay, what is it? He said, Martha's been banned from more senior centers than the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. I'm like, that's a good fucking
joke.
That's a good joke.
That is good shit. But
you're right.
I only use it as the old lady.
The vaccine is like politics. Half the people, would die to only take it, and half the people will never take it.
Yeah.
So you can't win. Talk about that.
Somebody
exactly.
Away. So that's a hot button issue.
And that's a no-win subject.
And people will not even want to talk about it because they know that they know people that will judge them depending on the decision they decided to or not take.
Right.
Now,
so regardless of their decision, you're like, I know people that'll freaking hate me just because.
Just stay clear from it.
Yep.
Now, Roman, what about you? What have you seen You know, I still remember the first time I worked with you and kind of met you. It was when Comedy Zone was booking Showcase Cinemas.
Yeah.
And if I don't remember who, I think Leanne Lord was the headliner.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly,
so, yeah.
you know, and I remember working with you there. And, you know, you and I kind of talk about personal stories and personal life type of thing, which, you know, I don't want to say it's easier, but I don't know if it always pushes the envelope as much, but it can. I think we push the envelope more with women than we do with men, but still, I've seen a lot of changes. What have you seen in your time?
Well, I think anything that can be politicized, you can't really talk about anymore. Anything that has two sides that could come together.
Yeah.
You can't.
The
really
only time I ever touch something like that is if I know what the room is leaning towards,
right?
And then I have stuff related to that. Right. I can go at it. If I know I'm in a room with a bunch of like veterans or something, I mean, I can joke around about owning some guns or something, whatever. But if I'm in a really like liberal leaning room, I could do some stuff I have that really works well with them. You know,
you think back Saturday Night Live in the 70s had Chevy Chase playing Gerald Ford. He didn't even try to dress like him. He didn't try to look like him. He just played this bumbling idiot that would fall downstairs, and everybody laughed. Even Gerald Ford laughed, and it was fine. They Dan Aykroyd played Jimmy Carter, and everybody laughed.
Even with
cocaine,
Will Ferrell with George Bush.
Yeah,
that was a great.
He did a one-man show on Broadway about George W. Bush, and sold out, and it was okay. And then as soon as we got in the 20 teens, and we got in that Hillary and Trump and all that,
election 2012 died.
Don't fucking talk about politics anymore. It instantly divides the room, instantly. But I mean, other than politics, have you seen any other big changes?
One thing, it's tough to talk about a group like to do jokes on a group of people that you're not related to. Like
well,
for instance, just like you said earlier, we can't really do black jokes because we're not black, you know, and so it's hard to do that now just because of
Like you mean like just talk about someone because they think you're making fun of someone.
Well, perfect example. If I can interrupt you for a second, I used to do a joke, and I referred to Chinese people, and I did Chinese people mispronouncing an American word, and I was told by several people that I can't do that joke. Not that I physically can't, that I shouldn't do that joke because coming from me, it's racist.
The one where the word election is mispronounced?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And I literally, it got in my head so much when multiple people said that to me. Yeah. I haven't done that joke in a year.
Yeah, it's
because it got in my head. The next time after someone said that to me, I went to do that joke and I screwed it up so bad because I was thinking about these people saying that to me that I'm like, they ruined it for me.
There's some stuff I've had change
and I
too.
bailed out and I don't do it anymore.
Yeah, because I have an Asian joke too, the snow forecast.
Yes.
And I end it, but sometimes I'll leave that out because I get a laugh after the first part of it when I compare it to a meteorologist, and then the second half is the stereotype about Asians, which is hit or miss. Like some
racist
will love
against
it.
Asians,
right,
too.
right. but it's sometimes it goes over well, and sometimes
with my Toyota.
Yeah.
Listen, I still have an Oriental rug, so I'm fine. Jay Burns hates that joke, but I'll tell you, there's one joke that I use that I had to give to the old lady because it doesn't work for me. I used to do a little thing about Whitney Houston. And I had to give it to the old lady. So I'll start, doing the thing. It's like, what's that the movie with Kevin Costner and the singer? Oh, The Bodyguard. I said, oh, what's that girl in it? They said, oh, Whitney Houston. I said, well, what's her daughter's name? They said, Bobby Christina. I'm like, and I do it as the old lady. So I'm like, those bitches can't take a bath. I'm like, who the hell drowns in a tub? I'm like, just get one of those walking tubs like I got us. As I get a girl that coming 3 times a week to wash up. I said, them walking tubs are beautiful. I said, you fill it up with water, Pat Boone comes and does your back. Done.
That's funny, man.
Thank you.
That's a great joke.
But I can only do it as a little old lady, and I have to be careful where I do it.
That's a
because
great
it's
joke.
too soon. I mean, Whitney Houston's been gone 10 years and it's still
not,
too soon.
It's not too soon.
That's wild,
especially for
man.
Grandma Martha.
Well,
You know what's funny though? How some shit changes. Like I remember when like for a long time you couldn't talk about Michael Jackson because people got really sensitive about it. But then when that documentary came out about him and like
Oh
sexual,
my God.
now everyone's like fuck Michael Jackson.
My-
I'm like that's funny how that took a U-turn real quick.
Two of my daughters worked with one of the two guys that were actually claimed they were molested by Michael Jackson.
Oh wow,
He's a choreographer,
Yeah.
and they worked with him
that's serious shit.
and danced under him,
Serious shit.
and they
literally.
they wholeheartedly believe
Mm.
everything he said.
Mm.
So that's a very sensitive subject in my house. I don't make jokes about
Nope.
that at all because
Yeah.
my two younger daughters are directly affected by that whole subject matter. So you know, and that's the tough part in my house is I have 3 20-somethings, and they've been very active politically over the last few years, and there are a lot of conversations in my house I stay out of. I don't say anything, and then you know it's a no-win situation because they'll be like, "You don't have any opinion on the matter." Not one you want to hear, you know, because I'm not going to lie to you and pretend to be something I'm not. But at the same time, you don't want to hear what I have to say. Trust me, you know, so I kind of stay out of it. And I can have one-on-one conversations with them. But if they're in a group discussion, I am not getting in the middle of that because it's a no-win situation for me.
But on the other hand, celebrities are just people.
They are.
Yeah, they're
They're
people. They're
They are.
imperfect and
Just
they
like
do things. Yeah.
The whole Will Smith thing. You know the problem I had with everything? Just the F word. They're like, what are you doing? Yeah, you punched the guy, all right, but then F. You know, Betty Davis and Jimmy Stewart are gonna be doing cartwheels in their graves. But it just why you have to drag it down like that?
Yeah, exactly.
You didn't have to.
It was bad enough.
You punched the guy, walk off.
Yes, it's bad enough that he slapped, but then the show he put on
That's what
by
I'm saying.
keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth.
Right. When we have to worry about what we say on a daily basis when we get on stage, he's on national television with 1 million people watching. Well,
Yes.
not the
Well,
Oscars.
he's getting heat for it though.
Oh, no, I
he
know.
is getting heat.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, he's getting heat.
But is he really going to have any consequences for that?
No.
He resigned
No,
from the
man, I
academy.
mean-
What does that mean? What does that mean that
I
he
mean,
resigned from the academy?
Do celebrities often really have? You
well,
know.
Kevin Hart, for instance, was picked to host the Oscars.
Oh yeah, this
and
one
then
we know.
lost the opportunity to because someone found a tweet that was homophobic from 10 years previous or 8 years previous,
That he
whatever it
already
is.
apologized for.
That he
Yeah.
he had already apologized for it.
Well, that's just cancel culture at its worst, right? I mean, that's
Exactly.
really all that is. over there.
But to kind of wrap up the question I had about the changes, one of the things that I found is you can't rest on your laurels and assume that jokes that you've written can always stand the test of time. Because there are jokes that I wrote that would crush and kill 15 years ago, 10 years ago that have changed. And we just mentioned one. You mentioned the erection joke.
yeah,
That now I you know is a mixed bag.
yeah.
It's a great joke. It's
It
a great
is-
joke. I love it.
It
You know,
is. It
I
is,
love
but
it,
it makes.
it's-
I did another joke about a rape whistle that I can't do anymore because the word rape is in it.
Yeah, it's
Not
not. It
because the
has
joke
nothing
is
to do
bad.
with rape. It's about a whistle for another context.
Yes, because people don't listen to the actual context
They
of the
just hear
joke.
rape.
They hear the word rape, and that's it. The joke's over. So I can't do that joke anymore.
Well, that's a tough subject too, though.
But it's a.
That's
But
a
it's not. But
the
that's not the
premises
subject
of
of the
his
joke.
joke.
Right.
Because the
That's
premises
not
of
the subject
But
of the
the
joke.
subject of rape is tough.
Right,
So
but
any-
75% are going to come away with just hearing rape.
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
yes.
They shut
Yeah,
down
yeah.
the second the word is said. They don't listen to anything else that comes after it.
because the premises of your joke is you're taking a whistle used for something extremely serious and using it for a completely non-serious
Exactly.
context.
Exactly.
That's the con. You know,
And
it's
the-
a
and-
it's a
and-
cry bull who cried wolf type.
and
that,
at the end of it, if you really listen to the context of the joke, I'm an idiot that doesn't understand what that whistle is really for.
Right.
But nobody gets to that point because they heard the word.
Rape.
Well, it's the same with the C word.
Well,
Same-
yes,
exactly.
Yes.
But he's doing
So
an
it's-
accent.
Right.
Yeah, and
doing
keep in
that.
mind
That-
too.
That's the
totally
worst
can't-
part is you even do the Australian accent while you're
Keep
doing
in
it.
mind with that joke is that, and that's not even a joke that I would normally use on a show. That's because the crowd was rowdy and I
Right.
know they were in that place.
Right.
But so that the point of that joke is that is the exact point of what I'm saying is that the whole premise of that joke, which there's a lot leading up to it, they got words in Australia as an American. It's crazy and funny to hear because they're so different from how we use those same words here. But it's an English speaking country. That's the premises. And I go by plenty of examples.
Yeah.
Obviously, most of the time, I don't do that part. I have another one that follows that, and I usually cut straight to that one.
Right.
But this crowd was a little more aggressive. So I included that part. But that's the point of the joke. And people's like, well, someone might hear that and think, well, so is that a sex? This has nothing to do with sex. This is to do with how people take a word and it means something else in a different country. And I speak 2 languages. In Portuguese, there are words that mean one thing in Portugal and can be used in a different context in Brazil, which also speaks Portuguese. That's how language works. That's the premises. It's funny. It's weird how a same language, a word can mean a different thing in a different place. That's
like
the fun thing.
England, there's cigarettes. There you go.
Yeah, cigarettes.
Over here, you can't use that
my
word.
buddy Mohan in England. I mean, in India,
about
they
fags.
call them fags.
They call
In
them
That's
India,
what I'm saying.
in India, they call them fags.
That's what I'm saying. That's just the
a
way
pack
they-
of fags. It's
Yep.
just what it is. And he laughs about that too. He comes, he's like, it's crazy because I want to call him that and I can't.
But Louis C.K., again, I keep going back to him because he's fearless about writing about stuff. In his series on FX, he wrote a scene where a bunch of guys are playing poker, and that word comes up, and a gay comic tells a story about that word. And he even says, use it to get you laugh. That's fine. Just understand what the word actually, where it comes from and what it means. And the reason they call them fags is because they light them on fire.
Right.
And back in the day when they would burn witches, they would throw the fags on the pile of wood when it was on fire, along with everything else. So, a bundle of they'd call a bundle of wood faggot just because they would burn the faggots just like they would burn
That's
wood.
the dictionary definition, by the way.
Yeah, no, but exactly. And this guy described it. He even said it was, and I forget his name. Forgive me. He was a comedian who's also gay, and he goes, use the word, get your laugh. The absolutely don't censor yourself on it. Just understand the true meaning and history of the word. He goes, that's the only point that I'm making. And I'm like, that's a really good point, that don't censor yourself, but understand where it comes from.
Yeah.
Understand where it comes from. So that might change the way you write the joke. That might give you a different perspective, and maybe you find something even funnier out of it if you truly understand it. You'll come at it from a different perspective that no one's ever come at it.
Yeah, that's
from
where
before.
Intelligence really matters in humor. There's an element of intelligence to it that's important.
And, so I kind of respected where that guy was coming from. And because he goes through this big, long story explaining it, and everyone's dead quiet. And then all of a sudden, Nick DiPaolo, who I love, goes, shut up and deal, faggot. And everyone busts out laughing. It's a brilliant scene. And they actually won an Emmy for that episode and because of that scene and everything, because of how well written it was.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was just really, really well done. And I love when somebody that's a perfect example of somebody that wrote on a subject that's trigger words, subject that most of us wouldn't talk about on stage. I wouldn't be brave enough to, but yet put it out there. That was the opening scene of the episode. It was the opening fucking scene of the episode, and he put it out there, and they won an Emmy for it. That's balls.
Well, it's like Chappelle's that skit he has about the N-word, about the white family.
Yes,
the milkman.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Milkman.
Yeah, I mean Chappelle show. I mean, it is a funny thing on that because I was just talking about this with a group of people for Spark Up PVD on Monday, and
don't promote other podcasts.
No,
on my
I'm not
podcast.
promoting their group.
No, go ahead and plug your podcast.
No, that's not mine. It
No,
was a group of people from it.
Plug their podcast.
No,
I like to plug other podcasts.
No, it's just it's a Providence-based podcast. They talk about performers in the area, music and art and stuff.
Yeah, it's awesome. That's awesome.
So, but what I was,
I have no podcast to plug.
the point
Grandma
of,
Martha should do a podcast.
Grandma Martha should do a CB radio podcast. You need a CB
my
radio.
God. A ham radio podcast.
I need to get you I need to get you the same like Kenworth that the snowman drove and Smokey and the Bandit, and you just drew it from the sleeper.
That's some bitch. Get me a Diablo sandwich and a Dr. Pepper. I'm gonna
fry your ass in
When I get home, I'm gonna punch your mother right in the mouth.
I cannot believe you came from my loins.
Rest in peace, Burt Reynolds and the whole gang. I love
Jackie
the Snowman.
Gleason.
Yes. So to cut back through, it was just like I was talking about how like I find it funny. Like I grew up watching so much of Chappelle's show, right? And I don't find it offensive because he makes fun of white people all the time. But I know what he's talking about. Like he's talking about your stereotypical like racist or like ignorant white guy.
He made fun
It's
of
like,
everybody.
Yeah, it's like that doesn't apply to me. I don't hate
Everybody.
black people. It's fine. I get the joke. I know what he's talking about.
Do you
That's what makes it funny. to me.
Remember
It's
when they
okay.
did a whole skit on a racial draft?
Yeah, racial draft. Yeah.
And you know he you know different people, like I believe white people drafted Tiger Woods and Asian people drafted this, and it was hilarious.
Yeah. I mean, the whole show, a lot of the show was
Eddie Murphy,
racial commentary on society. You know,
back when Eddie Murphy was on Saturday Night Live, so you're talking early 80s, he did a skit where the white guy,
Yep.
he painted himself up
Self-white.
like a white guy to go in to get a job.
Yep.
And they hired him because he was white.
yeah, the white face skit.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was
A trope
hilarious.
that Chappelle used on the show
Yes,
very regularly.
yes, something very, very similar.
Yeah.
So let you know we're an hour and 44 minutes in, guys.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
we ran long.
That's it.
And 4 scotches.
So fuck it. But anyway, let me ask one last question as we wrap up here. You know, we always end with our guests with a funny bad gig story. Do you guys have any funny bad gig stories of maybe a unruly person? I told mine of Grandma flashing her tits, so that was mine from earlier. Do you guys have any funny bad gig stories you can add to kind of wrap up based on the subject tonight? Does anybody have anything they can?
I'll finish the one the one I discussed earlier. Dale Cover was there, so. There was I don't know how this happens, but I love this couple. They had a baby with them. The baby was
At
asleep.
a comedy show.
It was at a comedy show. They had a baby was knocked out. Baby was doing his thing. So I saw the little thing, and I was like, "Hey, is there a baby with you?" And they're like, "Yeah, it's a baby." I was like, "Is it like, are we disrupting the baby? Is the baby asleep?" They're like, "No, baby's asleep." I'm like, "All right, cool. I'll buy the baby a shot too." Right. And they loved it. They loved it. The whole room loved it. But a guy in the back, for some reason, thought I was talking about the mother was pregnant and shot like some sort of edgy abortion thing. No, like they literally had a baby. And it was just a joke that, let the baby take a shot with you guys. But it was just a stupid thing. And he's all like, you a baby wants to. And most of the crowd knew what I was
So he turned into Grover?
He just went, he lost his shit. He's
Far.
He lost it. And after the show, I explained this to him, and the man just pauses and he says, "Oh, well, I've been drinking a lot. I apologize."
Well, at least he acknowledged it.
And then Dale Cover told me, because he happened to know who the guy was, because he knew the guy's granddaughter. The man was 85 years old. Did not look it. Was 85 years old. God bless the man. He was my height. He was 85. He was like 6 feet tall, 6'1" or some shit.
Good thing Grandma Martha wasn't there. He tried to get a piece of ass.
Nah.
But yeah, long story short, everyone had fun, but that was wild.
What about you two guys?
He screamed.
I just remember I was early on, maybe not even a year and a half in. Parada books me at this little restaurant he had up near the Random Dog Track.
Hey.
Okay.
Hey, brother.
But he was doing it on the regular over there. Well, this one night, like maybe 4 tables like canceled. So there's only maybe 5 tables right in the front. A lot of the same people were coming. And I was new back then. And there's one guy not even turned around. like looking the other way. Big bald head. I said, "Oh, Mr. Clean." I said, "You're going to turn around and watch the show." Turns around. He's got this big black handlebar mustache. I said, "Never mind, Sons of Anarchy." I said, "Turn back around. I don't want any trouble." Right. But there's one table. Everybody's laughing except you. Now I can't look away.
Oof.
Now he starts going back and forth with me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if it was now, I'd be able to, get into some, just ignore him or whatever. But I couldn't that night. Right. And he's going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Finally, about a few minutes after this, I said, "Listen, kid," I said, "I got a riddle for you." I said, "What's red and bad for your teeth?" He said, "I don't know." I said, "A brick." I said, "I got one in the car." I says, "Come on." I said, "I'll take all your uppers right now." And Parada's like, "Got it, brother. Got it.
Hey,
I had to get off stage. But now I would know how to do it. But back then it was early. So
Different time. Yeah.
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 Now I
feel
know
you.
what to do.
You learn with experience how to do that. There's, as you said with Furtado, a lot of psychology to it.
Mm.
Yeah.
What about you, Roman?
Yeah, I had when I first started, I used to do an open mic up in Norwood called the Vegas Lounge.
Yeah, I think we've
And-
talked about that before.
Yeah, and
That was a popular open mic.
yeah, at the time. And then they decided to go with karaoke, and
Shit.
then closed up about 6 months later.
Man, you
So-
guys
Fucking Brad Pierce.
Right? Yeah,
you guys enjoyed way more awesome open mics than I got to.
Fucking
Yeah.
Brad
Yeah.
Pierce.
but we used to do weekend shows towards the end for the last year that it was open. We would do Friday night shows once a month, and I would host them. And there was a table up front, and I was doing crowd work, and there was a woman sitting at the table, and there was an empty seat next to her, and I was kind of engaging with her, and she was coming back, and I said, "Well, who's sitting here? Is this your husband's seat?" And I was like, "You tell him he needs to be on time for these shows." I said, "Where is he?" And she's like, "He's dead." And I was like,
Ouch.
Silence,
Oh.
right? Silence across the whole room.
Oh.
And then I said something to kind of bring it back a little bit, like, who brought the asshole? Like, to kind of knock on myself. And it kind of brought the room back a little bit. But at that point, I was just like, whoa. And it was at the beginning of the show.
Shit.
So we still had another hour and a half left to go.
Damn,
And
Roman.
I was like,
Fucking dead guys always
yeah,
ruining
right,
shows.
right? And it was just,
I can beat that. And I've told it on here before, but I'll tell it real quick.
Here we go.
He's gonna see a dead guy and raise it something.
Oh,
else.
I'll raise it tenfold. The worst one I ever had is very early in my comedy career. I'm like 3 years in, maybe. I'm working my day job, and one of the guys I was working with, his son was on this high school football team, and he goes, "Hey, we want to do a comedy night fundraiser. Can you help us get comedians?" We're like, "Yeah, I know some people." And he goes, he tells me what the budget is. I'm like, "Yeah, I can get you some comedians for that." So I get John Turco, who's headlining at the time, hilariously funny comedian, and Stephanie Peters,
Great choice.
hilariously funny.
Awesome.
So they have 2 headliners and myself hosting. So it's in Westwood, Mass. Beautiful place. Go up, doing the show. I'm doing my opening. I'm supposed to open with like 10 minutes. I'm going along. It's going okay. And they're getting a little unruly because I think they feel comfortable with me because the guy that booked me is friends with me and they think they know me and stuff like this. And I said something about them being a Catholic school. "Oh, let me make you guys feel at home." And I got on my knees and pretended to be an altar boy.
Oh, shit.
The 2 fathers that run the school are in the audience. I didn't know they were there. It was so quiet, I could hear the compressor in the air conditioner kicking on and off.
So quiet to get an HVAC.
I literally could hear the dust falling from the vents in the room. It was so quiet. They literally didn't laugh at another thing I said. They didn't clap when I was done. They gave me less than nothing. I finished my set. I bring up Turco. Loved him. They were laughing. They were dying. They were going crazy. I'm like, all right, he got them turned around back on track. He goes, "Back to your host, Scott Higgins." The second he said that, They all crossed their arms, stopped clapping, stopped laughing. They had decided they hate me and they're going to give me nothing the rest of the night.
Ouch.
So I go up. I'm trying to do a couple minutes. It's still deadly silent.
Ouch.
Like, I've never heard silence like that at a comedy show since then, before then, ever. So I do a couple minutes and I just bring Stephanie up. She crushes. They love her. I go up afterwards. I thank them, blah, blah, blah. The guy that booked me said, yeah, the Monsignor asked for some of the money back. Oh, I had to give them some money back. So basically, I paid John and Stephanie. I got nothing that night and learned a valuable lesson. You know, it was quite uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's really
Experience.
uncomfortable. I've never had something like that. That's wild.
Yeah, you tapped all of us. But did this said altar boy have a peanut allergy?
He did not. And the problem that I had was when I got on my knees, I put on a penis hat and I had these honey roasted peanuts. And I think that just blew the whole thing out of the water because I was wearing a wig at the time. Yeah, I was only like maybe 3 years in when I did that. And yeah, I learned very, very quickly about just stick to your set. You don't need to try to improvise when you really don't know what the fuck you're doing at that point. And even now, I don't like to go off script too much.
Yeah.
I feel them out a little bit before I go off script. At least I have enough experience now to know how to go off and kind of talk to them and play a little bit. But even 20 years later, I mean, I'm 17 years past that moment and I still have PTSD from it, where I won't go too far off the path because I'm afraid of stepping off that line.
I mean, that's fair. In the end, it's the same objective every time, right? Like all we want to.
I just want to make people laugh and have them have a good time. And like the show I talked about, you and I did where those that one guy complained.
Yep.
Yes, it was one guy out of 160 something people, but that bothers me that one guy was upset. And I even said that to him. I said, listen, we want everyone to have fun. At the end of the day, we want everyone to have fun. None of that comedy, none of anything that anybody said was meant to be hurtful. None of it was meant to cause any hate or harm or anything like that.
In the first place.
And it's meant to be taken with a grain of salt. It really was. And I'm sorry that you didn't have fun. And I invited him to a show that I have booked that's a clean show.
Oh, that's
I
smart.
said, I will buy you 2 tickets to this show. That's a clean show. So you don't have to pay. You can go. You can see what a clean show is like. And I want you to have fun on me.
That's killer.
And he turned it down.
He turned it down?
He turned it down.
Yeah.
I hung up the phone with that guy afterwards and I said, listen, I did everything I could.
Yeah, no, I'd feel good after. I feel good about
I
that.
felt fine after that. That
I think you put the ball in his court.
I had a civil conversation with the guy. I let him know I understood his point of view, and I even offered him something in return for it. He doesn't want to take it. That's on him.
Yeah,
at this point,
absolutely.
You know, because at the end of the day, you know, none of us want to walk off stage and think that someone didn't have a good time.
Yeah, no, we want everybody.
None
to
of
have
us.
fun.
No comedian wants to think someone in the audience didn't like them and didn't have a good time.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, even the guys that push the envelope and maybe, you know, like the Louis C.K.'s, Doug Stanhope, stuff like that. Bob Marley, when we had him on the podcast, said it the best. He said the greats, the Richard Pryors, the Louis C.K.'s, they'll say something that offends or pushes the envelope, and then they litigate like a lawyer and prove to the audience why what they said is funny and bring it the whole thing back around full circle.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
He said they litigate it.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just such a brilliant way of saying it. And, you know, that's why none of us at the end of the day want to finish our set, finish the show with people not liking us and not liking what the show was.
Yeah.
At the end of it. And I think even Chris Rock, even though that night he got slapped by Will Smith, He knows he really didn't say anything that bad. Probably was upset with himself that he may have upset Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith, because he is a true comedian. He's a brilliant comedian.
Yeah.
And that probably bothered him that reaction happened.
Mm-hmm.
Because any of us would be upset if that happened to us.
Yeah, no one sets out to piss people off unless they're a hack.
That's why he didn't press charges. He didn't push the issue, because at the end of the day, you don't want anybody to be upset. You want them just to have fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And I certainly hope everybody that listened tonight, I hope you enjoyed this. We kind of dove deep into the subject of stuff tonight. And at the end of the day, we want you guys to know that when you go to a comedy show, we just want you guys to enjoy yourself. And we're trying to kind of present subjects that sometimes are not comfortable subjects, but we're trying to give you our perspective and present them in a funny way. And it's a way for us to take things that might be stressful and de-stress them. It's a way of taking things that might be a little offensive and make them less offensive. We're trying to show you that maybe we shouldn't take things as seriously as we always do. And hopefully you guys can see that, because that's really at the end of the day what we're trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you guys will all agree.
It's taking stress out of things, creating dialogue or something like that. You just got to take it with a grain of salt. And honestly, sometimes the person you see on stage and you might be judging by what they're saying off stage, they're an awesome person. You have no idea. When you're on stage, you are performing. It is a performance. So just take it with a grain of salt. And even if you don't like it, that's okay. But we want you to have fun. We really do.
Like you said, off stage, they're an awesome person. I mean, most people, not
people,
not Ace Aceto, but most people are. Ace Aceto is just a guy trying to sell you Bitcoin on Instagram. But other than that,
bitch.
Other than that, they're awesome people. But thank you for joining us again. If you want to join us live every Wednesday night, 8:30 on twitch.tv, drinks, jokes, and storytelling. That's the letter N, storytelling. Or follow us on Facebook at Behind the Funny. You can follow us there. Thank you for rubbing the
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be
podcast.
here. Behind the Funny. I love it. This is
if you're listening to us, please subscribe if you haven't done so. And of course, the 5-star written review is the best way to help the podcast. It's what Apple goes by for their charts. It's what Spotify goes by. The 5-star written review is what's going to help us climb the charts and get the podcast out to more people. If you like what you hear, tell a friend. That's how we learned about our favorite podcast. That's how you learned about your favorite podcast. So tell a friend for us. So that's another way to help out the podcast. And other than that, you guys got anything you want to promote?
No, I just came for the scotch.
Nothing too crazy. On May 29th, I'm on Rogue Island Comedy Fest though. So
congrats,
good
man.
luck.
Yeah, really excited about that.
Our buddy Doug Key runs the Rogue Island Comedy Festival now. They have 2 weekends a year that they run here in Newport, Rhode Island. It is a brilliant festival, amazing comedians, very funny. So if you're in the New England area and you have a chance to go to the Rogue Island Comedy Festival. Check out their website, Google them. Derrick's going to be on one of the shows.
Yes,
it's really a great festival. So congrats.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's going to be so much fun.
At Brian / Grandma Martha.
I got nothing to push. I'm busy, but nothing major. If I come back, I'll push some more shit.
But please go on Facebook and follow Roman Pierce, Brian Vincent, and Derrick Fonseca. See where they're going to be performing. These guys are amazing comedians. I love working with all these guys. I always have a blast watching them. Very, very funny comics, and you will not be disappointed if you go see them. So other than that, thank you for joining us, and we will talk to you next week.